On behalf of Elle and New Metro, a really warm welcome to this really wonderful event tonight, the premiere of The Great Gatsby in South Africa.
Cinema and couture, film and fashion, movie stars and designers. It's a love affair almost as old as Hollywood itself. Baz Luhrmann, director of the 2013 version of The Great Gatsby, grew up with a mother who was a ballroom dancer and dress shop owner. He collaborates on all his films with production and costume designer Catherine Martin, also his wife. Luhrmann's first film, 1992's Strictly Ballroom, won 2 awards for costume design. In 1994, Luhrmann and Martin were invited to guest edit an edition of Vogue Australia. For Romeo and Juliet, released in 1996, Leonardo DiCaprio's custom suit was designed by Luhrmann's close friend, Lucia Prada. Ms. Prada was also the first person to see the completed film. In 2001, Moulin Rouge won the Oscar for costume design. 3 years later, Luhrmann directed his Moulin Rouge star, Nicole Kidman, in a lavish multi-million-dollar commercial for Chanel No. 5. With The Great Gatsby, Luhrmann was looking for an unexpected way to transport the audience to the 1920s while remaining relevant to the present. So he and Martin called on Lucia Prada to help. Ms. Prada was uncertain at first. "I do not usually refer to any periods in my work," she explains, but together with Catherine Martin, I realised that many pieces from my archives could become very 20s with just a little intervention. In the 2 years leading up to the film's release, Ms. Prada created 41 costumes based on recent looks from her own Prada and Miu Miu lines. She toned down colours, altered necklines, removed decorations, and added dropped waists, fringe and other details. Look out for striped fur stoles and sequin dresses in a pivotal party scene. See anything that reminds you of Prada's Spring 2011 collection? But it's not just at Prada the 20s are making their presence felt.
The era where hemlines was on the rise, and where the iconic bob made its first appearance.
I think also for me the 20s represent this sort of, I don't know if I can say sort of like naughty era of the freedom of people just having fun and doing what they want.
And I've got the very strangest feeling that I was alive in that era because the clothes fascinate me. The way they behaved fascinated me, the music fascinated me. So I think I'd have to say clothes as number 1.
We also have to look at Madame Coco Chanel and her great influence, liberating women, introducing soft jersey dressing or the little black dress, and then of course also women wearing the pants, so to speak.
For me, it's the lavishness, the exuberance. Everything was bigger and louder and shorter, and that's quite exciting because there's just that sort of indulgence. I think Baz Luhrmann generally, his movies are epic. And he takes a story and he really creates an experience with them. So there's costumes and there's sets and everything is grand, and I think it sort of goes with the story, and it's an epic story, and also with the era, I think the 20s is about that, and I think.
Well, everything. I mean, it was such an amazing era. I've seen bits and pieces of it in magazines. Obviously Daisy and her dresses, which have been designed by all sorts of people. But the love story is so divine, and it's all heartbreaking, and it's just going to be my sort of film.
As a brand, do love the 20s, and we do love the drop waist, although to be honest, we've always found it difficult, especially in the South African market, to do drop waist because it's not always one of our best sellers because it's so shapeless. And I think women these days like to show off their waist unless they are very tall and skinny. Then they don't mind just wearing like loose fitting clothes. Although us loving the 20s, we always try to bring it in. So the bottom line is always to sort of have the cut line in the lower hip area quite prominent, but still shaping more shape into the waist.
The dropped waist is an amazing shape for women, providing that the cut is at the right place. It's all about it being in the right place.
I think the 20s has had an influence on fashion throughout the century. I think if you look at what's happening with Louis Vuitton now, it has a 60s feel, but the 60s was based on the 20s as well.
Well, the wisest words to that is don't overdo it, because the minute you start putting the bands on and the little flowers in the hair and the sequins, I mean, you are going to look as if you're going to a dress-up party.
And I think also with accessories, probably, and hair, do the little short haircut and the little twist in the hair, and do the pearls and the maybe, I wouldn't say necessarily gloves, it could be too costumey, but why not? You know, if you do dress up and you can do fringing, absolutely. I think bring in elements, but don't try to go for the whole look, because then it will become costume.
For me, I think it's the attitude. It's definitely the sense of anything goes. I think that there's the song from the 20s, Anything Goes. I think that was the spirit of it.
Well, the first thing I'd love to bring back is Robert Redford playing Gatsby, because he was just so beautiful and so perfect. But in all seriousness, I think it has to be the music. I loved the music of that era, and it just made the clothes work as well.
If I think of the 20s, I think of just the music and the partying, and then, I don't know if I can bring it in, but the sort of drugs and rock and roll that came with it in a subtle way, because it was always like demure, but it was there. And I think that naughty part, I think, is something that we all want to do and live, but they did it without being ashamed, and I think that's what's so exciting for me.
Want to take drugs?
Well, no.
This movie is truly a visual journey, and on behalf of Elle, enjoy every moment of it.